Hello book lovers! This is my March TBR video, and today I'm going to talk about books I'm going to read in March. I have a list of 6 books, and one of them I have already read, and I'm going to start from that book. The first book, and the book that I have already read, is The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodgkins. In some other reviews that I've seen, and in some other TBRs and wrap-ups and every kind of video like that, and every kind of video in which this book was mentioned, no one really wanted to say more about this book, so I'm going to tell you a bit more, because I feel like I can tell you without spoiling it, because that seems to be the main problem of this book. So in this book we have this girl whose name is Mara Dyer, and she's been in an accident. First I thought that it was a car accident, but it wasn't a car accident, and it was an accident at some abandoned building, I think it was, and she went there with her friends, and all of her friends died. The main problem is because she can't remember anything of that, and she just wakes up in hospital. They gave her all those medication, and she has to remember what really happened. She couldn't really forget everything and move on with her life, so she decided to move with her family to some other place, try somehow to forget everything that happened and continue living her life without thinking about the accident all the time. So they moved to Florida, and there she went to high school, and what I really didn't expect about this book, and that's why I can tell you that this book is some kind of guilty pleasure, because it deals with the usual high school drama, and because of that I didn't really know if this book would contain some supernatural elements or it would be like some contemporary or something like that, but you have to read that to find out. And at first I really didn't like that this book contained some cliché bits, like some usual high school bitch who is trying to make Mara's life worse for her, and I didn't like that the most handsome boy in this high school would fall for Mara, that he is rich, and that they all have those expensive cars and everything. So that boy has a British accent, and guess what? It reminded me of St. Clair from Anna and French Kiss, but more quirky and maybe more like Patch from the Hush Hush series, and you'll see that if you read this book. The second book on my March TBR list is, as you'll probably guessed already, is The Evolution of Mara Dyer, which is the second book of this series, and I really enjoyed reading the first book. It wasn't the best book ever written, and it had some cliché elements and everything, but I did enjoy it, so I would really like to continue with the series, and I will read the second book next. Then, after reading that, I would like to read this trilogy, and the third book has come out, I think, a month ago or something like that, and that is Everneath trilogy by Brody Ashton, and I don't really know a lot about this trilogy. I only know that it is kind of a retelling of the Greek myth, and a myth about Persephone and Hades, where she has to go to hell to marry him. I don't know if this is some kind of dystopian book or a book set in some different kind of universe, but I know that this girl had to go to some underworld, and that there she meets some guy, and there's also a love triangle, so I think that this book should really be interesting, and I've seen this book many times on the other videos, and many booktubers have this book on their shelves, and I love the covers, so I think that I will enjoy this trilogy. And those are the next 3 books that I plan to read this month, and after that I would really love to read some Heather Brewer books, and especially her vampire books, about some vampire who goes to school, and he's, I think, half vampire. His name is Vladimir Todd, and so he has to deal with all those problems like blood craving and all the vampire things that he has to hide from his schoolmates and everything. So I think that this would be really interesting, and I would really like to read these because I really like a good vampire book. And this one has a male protagonist, which will be somehow different from the other books that I read. And the description of these books maybe remind me on the Saga of Darren Shan. I don't know if this will be similar, but I really like the Saga of Darren Shan, and there we have another male protagonist. And I think that I will really enjoy reading these books. So there are 5 books in this serial, and there is also a spin-off series of this one. And I don't know, I'd really like to start, so if I like this book, I'll probably marathon the whole series, and we'll see how many books I will read this month. So that would be my March TBR, and I really hope that I will enjoy all these books. And I have all of these books on my Kindle. I don't own physical copy of them, but if I like them, I will probably buy a physical copy because I really love the books that I love to be on my shelf and to make my shelf more beautiful and more knowledgeful and more precious to me. If there are more books that I love on my shelf, then I will love my shelf even more than I do, and I love it so much already. So that would be my video, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.